San Francisco 49ers, Dallas Cowboys. You know, Reg, I've been thinking about this game a little bit more and more as the week has gone on.
I haven't thought about it at all.
I know you haven't. I know you're not ready until tomorrow. I know tomorrow you're going to be ready in prime time.
That's a joke. I've thought about this game quite a bit.
Yes.
Playoffs are a big deal.
It feels a little throwback to me. Like, think about what you got in the NFC right now. 3 of the 4 teams left in the NFC are from the NFC East. You think about the early 90s with the 49ers and the Cowboys and the Giants and the Eagles. A lot of these teams beating up on each other. Some of the best that we've seen come through the annals of NFL history playing for these 4 teams. And now a rivalry renewed between the Cowboys and 49ers. And you posed this question, what I think is a fascinating one. Are you more concerned about the Niners offense or their defense come Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, this question jumps out because of the ways in which, one, you look at the Niners team, and this is a really good team all the way across. I know people are sick of hearing that, but it's factual, right? The defense has been, for me, across the entirety of the season, been the thing that I've been like, oh, man. Like, it's been exciting to see the defense take the field because they are just so good. And shout out to the 214 who says both. That's fair.
Yes.
But, like, the defense has been really good. However, as I've been going throughout the week, obviously with the great coverage that we have on 105 through the fan, almost spearheaded by Super Bowl winning scout Brian Broaddus, the connections that he has, the football mind that he has, and the ways that he's pointed out that this defense – it's not perfect, right? Obviously, we talked to, a beat writer for the 49ers, Tracy Sandler, who pointed out the corners can be had, and that is true, right? You can go at the corners. This defense likes to play three linebackers, right? So if you run the football and if you get in big packages, then you could get in positions where now you're forcing linebackers to do things that linebackers don't always want to do. There's ways to attack them. The offense, however, I am not afraid to say, that one's the one that I'm concerned about. Like the Cowboys defense versus that offense, which is funny because the defense with Micah Parsons and Tank Lawrence and all of the factors, also Digizua, this has been a defense that's gotten after quarterbacks. We saw them kind of get back to their old ways against an admittedly not good Tampa Bay team, but they got back to attacking the quarterback. And if you do that, you will fare well. However, coverage is my question here because they are what they call a 21 personnel, so 2 running backs, whether it's a running back and a fullback, which they will do that. They'll get that fullback out there with a use chick, right? A tight end and a wide receiver, 2 wide receivers, right? Like they have these grip of guys between use chick, Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. They'll get all these guys out there, and the thing about all these guys is that they all do everything. And when I say everything. I mean everything. Like the Niners, one of the things about the Brock Purdy thing is like, all right, cool. They're running the same play. They're running like 4 plays, but they do it out of different sets and they do it with different people in different places. And the thing is, you're going to have to cover each and every one of them like they are a running back or a wide receiver or a tight end or a fullback because they all do all of those things. So the thing I'm worried about is when you have guys who are more specialists, right? When you have certain guys that are like, I'm a cover guy, not a tackle guy, or I'm a tackle guy, not a cover guy. Well, when they flex Christian McCaffrey out to the outside, what do? When they have Juszczyk running a corner route, what happens? When they have George Kittle, coming out of the backfield and just running at you to lay a block, what are you doing? Like they have these guys that do all sorts of different things, and they have managed to get open all the time with deep overs, with plays that are fairly simple and that they do all the time, that they have so much familiarity with, that if you cannot cover them, if you cannot lock that down, and if you cannot apply pressure, that they will gash you. And that's the thing that's been running through my mind. And thankfully, I don't have the job of actually having to defend it or figure out how to defend it. And thankfully, it's Dan Quinn because he has shown such great defensive acumen. But that is not an easy task, and I do not envy Dan Quinn for having to do it.
And I look at both of these teams, and when I look at San Francisco, what they present defensively is frightening. They have a terrific front 4 that begins with Nick Bosa, who I believe is going to be the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year. They've got a terrific linebacker in Fred Warner, arguably the best linebacker in the game today. But when I look
great cover backer too.
Exactly. But when I look at what San Francisco does offensively, I saw a clip today from what was a show called Slow News Day. It was with Kevin Clark and Richard Sherman.
Ringer, I believe?
Yeah, with the Ringer. And it was about a month ago, but Clark had retweeted it today. and he talked about the maniacal preparation that Kyle Shanahan goes through.
Yeah.
And he said, Richard Sherman had gone through a story about how Shanahan had learned Dan Quinn's defense so deeply that he was able to just break his scheme by being able to exploit mismatches.
Don't tell me that.
Based on, well, here's the thing.
It's good that you have that information, but that I don't like the way that made me feel.
Well, where I'm going with this is, if Shanahan, and this is when Shanahan was with, Atlanta,
yeah.
And Dan Quinn, with the Seahawks before ultimately they got together, in Atlanta. But my point is, I wonder if Dan Quinn, with the guys that he has between Micah Parsons and Dorrance Armstrong and all the defensive stars that he has, is that same maniacal preparation happening for him, knowing the kind of headaches he's got to deal with on Sunday afternoon between Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, who's on his way to the Hall of Fame, is a terrific right tackle. Like, all the elements that the San Francisco 49ers present, and the way that Kyle Shanahan is able to get guys on the move, the jet sweeps, the end arounds, all the things that he does to create mismatches. I wonder if Dan Quinn is going about that same kind of preparation the way that Shanahan is, because if that's the case, I think Dan Quinn could have some wrinkles for Brock Purdy, because I want to know how Brock Purdy processes information when things don't look as they seem pre-snap, post-snap. What kind of decision-making is he capable of when things aren't necessarily what he sees based on what he's experienced so far? That's what I'm hoping Dan Quinn can bring to some of that on Sunday afternoon.
From the 214, their offense worries me. McCaffrey, Deebo, Brandon Ayuk are a hell of a trio, and they go further to say they make everybody play everybody on D.
Yeah.
And that is something that is absolutely the case. The tough thing about it for me is when you say, basically playing the mind games that we were talking about with Tom Brady last week. I was looking at Kurt Warner's breakdown, the QB Confidential that he does on YouTube. Fascinating stuff from obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback mind. Brock Purdy will miss some open wide receivers. The problem is there's another open wide receiver, right? That's the thing about it, is if you show different things, the giant of this team, of the offense, is not Deebo. It's not Christian McCaffrey. It's not Brock Purdy. It's Kyle Shanahan. It is the system and the scheme and the ways in which it puts defenses in a pick your poison type situation. So somebody's going to be in a place where there will be an option, ostensibly, right? And the thing that you can give Brock Purdy credit for is the few instances, mind you, when he has had to make a play out of structure, he's been able to do that. I think maybe some of this is, one, if you can match up and really take some of these things away and actually lock onto some guys, obviously. But if you can make him make more and more plays out of structure, you give yourself an opportunity of maybe having 3, 4, 5 reps throughout the game where you have an opportunity to maybe make a turnover or stop them. And then maybe this ends up being, and I don't know, maybe this ends up being a little bit of a shootout, and then you end up getting further along because you were able to take a couple possessions away. That's one of the things that I've thought about. But yeah, I think this is the side of the ball that I really, and I think both of us are really intrigued in. But
yeah,
let's at least look at the other side. Why are we less concerned with this one than the other one? The matchup of San Francisco 49ers defense, Cowboys offense.
I think part of it is because, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, the secondary of the 3 levels for San Francisco probably is the weakest of the 3. And as we mentioned, with Armstead and Bosa, on the front 4, Fred Warner in the second level, you start getting toward the back end of the secondary. You saw what DK Metcalf was able to do in the wild card round. Was able to get after Travarius Ward pretty good. I like my chances with CeeDee Lamb versus a Ward. My question would be, how does Kellen Moore offensively find a way to exploit mismatches with his offense against San Francisco and what DeMeco Ryans wants to do defensively, and how you can exploit the middle of the field with Dalton Schultz, Ferguson, Hendershot, and be able to take what the defense gives you, because I think Dak Prescott did a terrific job of that last week against Tampa. What did Tampa present to him? Whatever it was, Dak took advantage of it. They will have to do more of the same, because this is a physical, aggressive, nasty defense when it comes to D'Amico Ryans and what he's got out there for his horses on the defensive side of the ball.
You talking, you spitting right now like Stan Van Gundy. No, that's the thing is D'Amico Ryans, he's received a lot of praise and rightfully so, but D'Amico Ryans ain't like scheming it up like Todd Bowles was last week. He's like, yo, I have dogs.
Yes.
And I'm going to let those dogs roam. So, yeah, the thing about it is you can get this team on deep shots and things of that nature. For 808, I get it. Didn't know we had a DK Metcalf on this team. I don't think you do necessarily, but
you've got a legit top 10 wide receiver now. And that to me is the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got guys who can play deep. My thing about it is the reason why they are cool with that is because typically they be getting after the quarterback, dog. So like Dak Prescott is I'm not going to say that like he has to show his worth or anything, but he will have to do some of the things that he did well against Tampa, which is utilize the movement and getting out of the pocket every once in a while, doing those things. And hopefully you would hope that this team can also just throw beyond that pass rush, which we could maybe slow down that pass rush, or maybe also if you can run the ball well and play action, bootleg, things of that nature, things that you can slow down the pass rush and then give you an opportunity to maybe take some of those shots. So those are some of the things that I think you would have to do, and I think you're capable of doing, which gives me a little bit more pause on like being fearful. I don't really want to use the words of fear because, look, you're going into a football game as a good football team. Like, you should be able to go out and have a good game. But when it comes to concern, I'm more concerned about that offense than I am of the defense. And that is not me disrespecting either side of this. That's just kind of the way it fell for me.
I think what concerns me most about San Francisco defensively is that they do not have to bring pressure in order to get home on the quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, and I'm looking at Tyler Smith. I'm looking at Connor McGovern, Tyler Biadasz, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, who I thought played his best game at right tackle against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
These 5 men are going to have their hands full on Sunday, and their abilities to hold their blocks, to be able to win in pass blocking situations where they haven't necessarily been great at this year. They are going to have to win and win constantly because it is not a team in San Francisco that feels like they need to bring a bunch of guys in order to get after your quarterback. So how your offensive line holds up against this front four is going to tell me a lot about the kind of time not only Dak Prescott gets, but also your ability to try and run the football a little bit with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott to try and strike some kind of balance against a team in San Francisco that will look to do a lot of the same on offense themselves against your defense on Sunday.
Yeah, man. Feels like it's going to be a margins game, right? Takeaways, if you can get stops, like even if it's just, bend not break type stops, you know what I mean? Where it's like turn threes instead of sevens. And this is the thing, right? You got all these dudes that can do all of those things, which means all your dudes got to be able to tackle all of them dudes.
All of them got to be able to tackle because Deebo Samuel is not here for your arm tackles, okay? Going to break those all day. I will say this before we go to break real quick. I love the analogy that Michael Irvin used as he was getting ready to tape Inside the NFL the other day. And he's akin this matchup to Rocky versus Drago in the sense of Drago was an unstoppable force running through everybody. San Francisco has ran through everyone for the better part of, 2.5, 3 months now. Does San Francisco bleed? What can you do to punch this team in the mouth, to have them thinking about some things about what you present to them on Sunday? And I think, to me, that will tell us something about the mentality that the Cowboys go into this game with. Go punch them in the mouth and see how they respond, because to me, this Cowboys team is probably the best one that they've seen since they lost to Kansas City by, 21 points in Santa Clara. I know they've beaten Miami. I know they've taken out, a couple other teams, beaten Seattle. But to me, this is the best team that San Francisco has seen since Kansas City. Test them and see what you can do against Brock Purdy in this offense, and then go from there.